Good morning, Good Lucky Nation, and welcome to another video. Alright guys, today we're going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of making a vlog, I'm going to make the video that I promised you guys about how to optimize your vegan diet. And right now, I'm on my way to my friend Sebastian's house where he's going to share with us some tips. He's actually the founder of Vytogo, which is the company that I work with and I'm an ambassador for. So let's go knock on his door and see what he has to say about optimizing your diet. What's up everyone? Alright, we made it on the rooftop and I have my good friend Sebastian with me, who, like I mentioned previously, is the founder of Vytogo. He's the man behind how I'm eating and how I'm optimizing my life. So I thought it would be a good fit to invite him and share with you guys his top 5 tips to optimize your vegan diet, basically. Alright, so Sebastian, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you're the go-to man to optimize your vegan lifestyle?
So for myself, I got interested in nutrition years ago after getting really sick on a trip to Uganda. At the time, I didn't really know much about health or nutrition, and it was around that time that I started investigating, trying to sort out my own health. And through that process, along with going back to school and having a lot of colleagues in the industry, I've spent the last 6 or 7 years learning everything I could about nutrition, which ultimately led to me founding my own company that we now have that's selling Vytogo, which is the product, the flagship product of our line. And we also sell moringa in bulk as well. We have a company that specializes in health and well-being, and I get the opportunity to hang out with people like Lucky all the time, which is awesome.
So before we go into the 5 tips, tell us what's behind Vytogo, like the giving back aspects. I love that part.
What we did is, since the idea really did have its origin in Uganda, we wanted to be able to make a contribution back to that community. Of course, that's where a lot of the inspiration comes from. My own heart and inspiration is from Uganda. So what we do is, for every 1 bag of the product we sell, we donate a month-long supply of one of the ingredients in the formula called moringa to orphaned youth in East Africa. And the reason we do that is because we discovered moringa had an incredibly nutrient-dense composition. And for that reason, it's highly effective in treating malnutrition. It's actually high in most, if not all, of the areas that are commonly indicated for malnutrition. So that includes things like protein, vitamin A, iron, and a few other difficult to get B vitamins. So it really is an incredible superfood, and a lot of people call it nature's multivitamin. So that's why we've sort of taken this model of having 1 bag of Vytogo sold and having this month-long supply of moringa for orphaned youth.
I love it, and that's one of the parts why I joined Vytogo, why I joined the team. And as you guys see on my Instagram story, I use it every day, and I don't know how many childs I've fed just by me using the product.
A lot, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Alright guys, so the moment you've been waiting for, the 5 tips to optimize your vegan diet. Let's get into number 1.
Awesome. So the first thing that you'll always hear when you're going vegan is you're not going to get enough protein. I want to just take a moment and kind of demystify that. He's got protein up here apparently. You know, what I always tell people is, when you're looking for the best source of protein, it comes down to, along with of course having enough amino acids, is actually the digestibility of the protein. So that's why we decided in Vytogo to use hemp protein. And the reason for that is that there's a type of protein found in hemp seed called edistin, which is very uncommon in nature. In fact, it's the only plant in the entire world that actually contains this type of globulin protein called edistin. Edistin is known as a legumin, which often people call plant casein. So casein is the type of protein from eggs, and it's a very high, performing type of protein that's often been used to qualify the other qualities of protein. So essentially what's really unique about hemp protein is that it actually has a protein that's very similar to casein in a plant form. And so for that reason, it is highly bioavailable. In fact, I believe it to be the most digestible form of protein in the world. And the reason for that is that there was actually a patent created for edistin protein, which is actually being used as a human blood plasma substitute. Actually indicates how similar that type of protein is to our body's own globulin protein.
And guys, from my perspective, from a fitness point of view, from taking protein shakes and supplement after supplement, once you share with me that information, I shifted to hemp protein and I have no more stomach issues. Like, whether before it was like pea protein, brown rice protein, whether it was organic or not, my stomach would still hurt after I'd have those shakes. Since I started doing hemp protein, whatever the brand, to be honest, just to make sure it's good quality, my stomach stopped hurting and I have differences in my recuperation, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point. I mean, hemp is a very unusual type of plant. It actually doesn't do well with pesticides and herbicides, and so, you are actually correct in saying, the hemp protein quality, certainly for products coming from within Canada, is a very high standard. I mean, it would be very difficult to find a terrible form of hemp protein. And from our side, we do, of course, do a lot of extra work in the sourcing, so we've made sure that we're sourcing from the company that we consider has the highest quality protein in North America. So that's what we're doing on our end, and for, people like yourself or others out there that may not have access to Vytogo, whether they're not in Canada or somewhere else, really the best thing to do is just find a high quality, of course, organic form of hemp protein, and you should be good.
Tip number 2.
So one of the next things that often comes up for vegans is iron. So of course, animal products do actually have an advantage over vegan products from this perspective. There's a type of peptide that's found in animal products that actually helps with your body's absorption of iron. And so this is often used as kind of a bit of a misdirection for people that are eating animal products, that they can't get iron from plant sources. Of course, this is definitely not the case. There's just different forms of protein, different forms of iron. And for animal products, you have what's called heme iron, and for plant products, you have what's called non-heme iron. And so you want to make sure that you have a highly bioavailable form of iron, and that's really what's important for plant-based iron supplementation. So the thing that we found to be most effective thus far is actually moringa. We found that it has a highly bioavailable form of iron, and it's actually been studied for women that are breastfeeding or other groups of the population that are going to end up being predisposed to iron deficiency. Moringa has performed spectacularly. It's got an incredibly high bioavailability, and so for a plant source, it's a wonderful way of supplementing your iron.
Tip number 3.
All right, tip number 3. As you get deeper into the, conspiracy of eating a plant-based diet, you'll find that a lot of people talk about vitamin B12. And so I've spent an incredible amount of time studying this one particular nutrient just because it's so complex. I mean, really, you could spend decades just trying to really get to the bottom of this. The first thing I'll say, just to sort of set the record straight, is that a lot of people have said that there is no plant source of vitamin B12, and I can definitely confirm that that is not true. However, there is something to be said for there being no animal or plant source of B12. What's interesting is that there is no organism that we know of, either in the plant kingdom or the animal kingdom, that actually synthesizes B12. Where it comes from is bacteria. Yeah. So it's the animals that are getting this in their diet somewhere, or the plants that it's going to be in their environment, that they would get this vitamin B12. It's not actually something that they're generating themselves. So that's a really important distinction, because the whole idea that, of course, it can't be in plants is fundamentally flawed from that perspective. So what we discovered was that there's one particular source of vitamin B12 that is highly bioavailable and also has high concentrations, and that's from the algae called chlorella, which is a microorganism. It's been on this planet for over 2 billion years. It's remained chemically unchanged for the last 500 million years or so, and so it's an incredibly successful organism. And so this particular plant, it actually produces the most bioavailable form of vitamin B12, which is called methylcobalamin, as opposed to cobalamin. So there's recently been a study done, I think it was just published in 2015, indicating that especially for vegan and vegetarian populations, this is actually a viable B12 supplement. And of course, you can find all that literature online. It was produced by a study out of Japan. So I'm really inspired by that, because for the first several years of being plant-based, a lot of people would tell me you're going to end up being vitamin B12 deficient, and really they had a good argument, because there wasn't as much literature back then. But more recently, the academia is starting to catch up with what people have known in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, that's definitely the first 3 things you said. Like, as soon as you go vegan, I know there's a couple of you guys watching that just went vegan. Like, I got a couple of messages from you guys. B12 is definitely a comment you're gonna get often. The protein is like number 1, I think, and iron. And there's so many examples of athletes, bodybuilders, just top performing people in the world that are vegan, that are plant-based. And I think Sebastian brings up a lot of good points in those tips, because you can get all those things from plants. So no matter what other people say, they just heard it from other people, and you should check your sources and where you get your information, to be honest. There's so many high-performing plant-based athletes out there.
That's right.
That why can't we be?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of misdirection, of course. And also, it's complicated, right? It takes a lot of time to dig down, but when you drill down and you actually get to the bottom of it, you start to realize that a lot of these things are myths, really.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. Tip number 4.
So going away from the nutrients for a bit, there's other things that people often do when they're just getting into a new diet. or a new lifestyle. And that's really what I promote, is not so much the idea of diet, but more of like lifestyle, because switching back and forth between things is never going to be good for your body. It's going to create extra stress. So really it's taking it on as more of a lifestyle. So anyway, putting the nutrients aside, one of the common things that people do is they start juicing all the time. And of course this is great. I mean, there's no problem with juicing. I think it's great. The only issue can be, depending on how the products are being juiced, often you'll end up getting rid of a lot of the fiber that's in those products. And so for people that are going vegan, one of the suggestions is to actually eat foods in the whole form. I mean, that's one of the advantages of being vegan. You know, try not to start eating predominantly processed foods. Like, don't go to all the crackers and chips and
the processed
tofu, whatever. I mean, it's endless in this society. We have lots of options for processed food. Oreos, and further to that, you know, try and eat the foods in their whole form as much as possible. And that's not to say that you shouldn't juice or you shouldn't drink juice. It's not necessarily a problem with that. Just that if that's your primary source of those foods, you're going to be missing a lot of the way nature intended it to be, which is, you know, containing fiber for one. And so that's my fourth tip, is really just make sure that you eat foods in their whole form. And when it comes to juicing, don't do it endlessly. You know, pick a period of time that you'll be doing it, or drink it, you know, with meals and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's something I can talk about. Is a lot of people go from like eating processed food, like a Western diet, and then they go vegan and they still eat processed food on a vegan diet, or they just juice and they don't eat any fiber. So you went from a diet that doesn't contain a lot of fiber from Western diet, and then you go vegan with processed food and juicing, and you just don't have more fiber. So you have more vitamins and nutrients, but you still don't get the fiber content that you're supposed to get.
That's right. Yeah, it's like you want to take a transition, you know, with what you're doing. I mean, we didn't really build that into this video, but it's a good thing to mention. It's like, you know, you're going to shift your whole lifestyle over to this new type of, you know, diet, and you got to give yourself some time. Like, your body's used to consuming a certain type of protein, consuming a certain type of fiber source, right? And so if you remove all of that stuff at the same time, your body's not going to be happy. And it's also about the longevity of what you're doing, because if you're just going to do a quick diet and lose 10 or 15 pounds because you were healthy, that might be good in the short term, but what happens is, going back and forth between these things over time, it really does create additional stress that's really not necessary. Yeah, definitely cut the processed foods as much as possible. Give yourself some generosity though, and allow a transition period to help you along the way.
I can definitely attest to that. From like being bodybuilder to high fashion model, losing 80 pounds up and down like that, like my body took a big hit. And for me to like clean my body, it took like over a year, but that's because I've been varying up and down of weight for a long time. Tip number 5. So, I should be a show host. I like this. All right.
You would make a good show. So, so the last tip is kind of just building actually on the fourth tip, which is one of the drawbacks of juicing continuously is the sugar, right? And so this is a very common thing I see. Like, people, they eliminate meat and dairy and sometimes even gluten or other things, you know, and then they're like, oh no, what do I have left, right? And there's this kind of scarcity thing, right? And so it's like, well, I really like, you know, he was telling me, I really like bananas. So he ends up eating like...
At one point I was eating 30 bananas a day.
Yeah, like 30 bananas a day is ridiculous. So, you know, the thing about that is that the body, as much as it appreciates all these natural foods coming in, it still registers sugar as sugar. Like, glucose is still glucose, no matter which channel, you know, it's coming from. So what happens is, people have this tendency to go really, you know, far into one direction. So it's like, oh, I'm a vegan, but now I eat, you know, 3 bags of Oreos a day. And that's going to be problematic, because sugar on the spectrum of things that are damaging to your body is going to be very close to the top. It's certainly in copious amounts. So, you know, my suggestion is just to be vigilant of that. And again, it's all about that transition time, being able to actually allow your body to integrate these new things in, while also optimizing, you know, your meals, right? Being able to create something that tastes good, that you like, and at the same time that isn't totally saturated in sugar. Becoming a vegan and taking your sugar consumption up 5 or 10 times is not healthy. So definitely just be aware and try not to overconsume sugar.
I'm gonna add not a 6th tip, but I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. And you've mentioned it in the 4th tip.
Just keep
Whole foods, like just whole foods. in general.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Whether like, for those of you that are not vegan, that will become later. Whole foods.
That's it.
Is a key.
That's like the bonus tip.
Yeah, the bonus tip. Whole foods. Eat whole foods. Simple. Yeah. If it doesn't grow, don't eat it. I've never seen an Oreo tree before.
Yeah.
Don't eat that.
You've never seen an Oreo tree?
Nah, never.
Oh, okay.
It's not a Vancouver thing.
Yeah, you gotta go south with us. Yeah.
Alright guys, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope those 5 tips really helped you. If you have any further questions, be sure to comment them down below. Whether you guys are on Instagram, Facebook, or on YouTube. I want to say I really appreciate your love. And I'm going to link Vytogo in the description box below so you guys can go show them some love as well. A lot of love today, a lot of love.
That's it.
And Sebastian, I want to say thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
My pleasure.
Even though I call you every day for information.
That's cool. Lucky lifestyle.
So guys, I will see you on, it's going on Wednesday, on Saturday. Take care guys. Peace.